Welcome to today's teaching from MishnahWalk.com. We are examining the Acts 15 Council, not merely as a theological dispute, but as a formal halakhic responsa regarding jurisdiction and naturalization. To fully comprehend the mechanics of this ruling, we must analyze the text through the precise legal frameworks of the first century. Grasping these ancient jurisprudential concepts is vital to understanding the very foundations of community integration and biblical law. Our syllabus for today's academic lecture covers 6 distinct areas of inquiry: the Beit Din Katan, defining the legal stranger, the Nevelah paradox, the Sinai sequence model, the Sabbath education mandate, and finally the Passover passport. Section 1. The Beit Din Katan. To properly contextualize the decree of Acts 15, we must first establish the precise jurisdictional authority held by the apostles in Jerusalem. First-century Jewish jurisprudence recognized 2 primary tiers of authority. The Sanhedrin Gedolah, comprised of 71 judges, resided in the temple and issued rulings on universal law binding upon all Jews. Conversely, the Beit Din Katan, consisting of 23 judges, governed local community standards. The apostles functioned strictly in this latter capacity. They were not a Supreme Court attempting to rewrite universal Jewish law or alter temple protocol. Rather, they served as a local Beit Din Katan, managing the internal integration standards of a specific, burgeoning community. This brings us to the central legal crisis of the text: the conflict between immediate versus eventual naturalization. The legal formalists, identified as the Pharisees who believed, demanded an immediate passport by means of circumcision. They insisted on strict day-one assimilation where incoming Gentiles would instantly assume the totality of the 613 mitzvot. The apostles, however, ruled for a phased integration. They recognized that eventual full naturalization necessitated an extended period of study and ethical alignment beforehand. Section 2. Defining the legal stranger. To grasp the mechanics of this phased integration, we must direct our attention to the precise linguistic and legal categories of migrants under first-century Judean law. This jurisprudence demanded a rigorous legal distinction between individuals. The Ger Tzedek, or righteous convert, possesses full citizenship. Having undergone circumcision and immersion in a mikveh, their legal status is effectively changed to that of the native-born. The Ger Toshav, by contrast, is the resident alien. This individual has formally renounced idolatry and holds residency in good standing. The new Gentile believers initially belonged to neither finalized category. They were embarking upon the path of the Tzedek, but first required the structured parameters of the Toshav. Therefore, the Jerusalem Council issued what functions essentially as a residency permit. This legal green card allowed these Gentiles to enter the community safely as learners. Before undertaking the monumental commitment of full national citizenship, they were given the necessary time, often a complete Torah cycle, to study the intricacies of the law. This approach ensures that their final naturalization would be fully informed and deeply rooted in comprehension, reflecting the structured integration required in any sophisticated legal society. Section 3. The Nevelah paradox. To prove that this council was issuing a temporary residency status rather than introducing an entirely new theology, we must examine a specific dietary injunction that serves as the legal proof of this status. The key to this argument lies in the Hebrew term nevelah. Nevelah refers to meat from an animal that died by means other than shechita, the exacting, blood-draining ritual slaughter standardized by the temple. The Greek term paniktos, translated as strangled, served as the common identifier for nevelah in the first century, contrasting directly with acceptable temple standards.
We must analyze the foundational Torah statute regarding this meat. Deuteronomy chapter 14, verse 21 states explicitly, "You shall not eat anything that is nevelah. You may give it to the ger who is within your gates that he may eat it." The baseline Torah law therefore explicitly permits the ger toshav, the resident alien, to consume nevelah as a charitable allowance. By divine mandate, the Gentile was entirely within their legal rights to consume this meat.
Herein lies the legal paradox. If the Apostle James were merely reminding the Gentiles of basic Noahide law, he would be in direct violation of Deuteronomy by forbidding what the Torah explicitly permits. However, acting as a head of a Beit Din Katan, he exercises the power of takana, a formal legal enactment. By forbidding nevelah, the council establishes a shared community standard. This critical legal bridge meant that Jews and Gentiles could now eat at the same table, engaging in table fellowship without the Jewish members violating the heightened standard of sanctity commanded of them.
Section 4. The Sinai sequence model.
Having established the mechanism of table fellowship, we turn to the structural pathway utilized by the council. The council's logic is firmly anchored in the Sinai sequence, codified by the phrase na'aseh v'nishma, meaning we will do and then we will hear or understand. At Mount Sinai, ancient precedent established that the physical act of covenantal obedience frequently preceded comprehensive intellectual understanding. The apostles applied this structural framework to the incoming Gentiles, permitting immediate physical integration to precede total theological mastery. The apostles designed a strict chronological order of operations. Step 1, abandon idolatry. Step 2, adopt dietary minimums, specifically the avoidance of novella. Step 3, sit for table fellowship with the Jewish community. Step 4, embark on a rigorous process of learning that ultimately culminates in naturalization. This sequence systematically integrated new believers without compromising the community's ritual purity. Section 5. The Sabbath Education Mandates. We now address the requirement for continuous formal learning once this temporary residency was granted. The scholarly evidence for this educational requirement is explicitly stated in Acts chapter 15, verse 21. For Moses is read in the synagogues every Sabbath. This text functions as the foundational education clause of the residency agreement. It formalizes the expectation that these new residents, having been granted a preliminary status, would be immersed in weekly systemic Torah study. It is a common formalist assumption that the initial 4 rules issued by the council constituted the entirety of the law required of the Gentiles. This is demonstrably false. The 4 rules were merely prerequisites, baseline admission requirements designed to allow the Gentile to enter the synagogue classroom safely and engage in table fellowship without causing a social or ritual rupture. One does not expect a student to pass a comprehensive legal examination on their first day. The priority is securing their presence in the classroom. Section 6. The Passover Passport. This brings us to the ultimate legal checkmate regarding the permanent, unyielding necessity of circumcision for full naturalization in the Commonwealth of Israel. Consider the immutable statute of Exodus chapter 12, verse 48. No uncircumcised male shall eat of it. If the Apostolic Council intended to abolish circumcision permanently for these incoming believers, they would be condemning them to perpetual exclusion. Without eventual circumcision, these Gentiles would remain forever barred from eating the Passover, the Commonwealth's most vital covenantal feast, and legally prohibited from ever entering the inner courts of the temple to stand before Hashem.
The true brilliance of the Beit Din Katan halakhic ruling is found in its timeline. They did not abolish the Torah. Rather, they legally moved circumcision from the entrance gate to the culmination of the educational cycle. A Gentile is granted residency at the entrance gate, receives continuous Sabbath education in the synagogue, and finally, equipped with full understanding, proceeds to the mikveh and circumcision. Thereby, they obtain their full passport and naturalization as an equal in the community.
We are left with a critical scholarly question. How does distinguishing between human community management and divine jurisdiction transform our understanding of biblical naturalization? Hashem oversees the jurisdiction of the heart and grants the spirit, but the Beit Din must painstakingly manage the physical community. The decree of Acts 15 harmonized these two realities, creating a structured order of operations for growth. Join MishnahWalk.com today to become part of this community.